Nice to meet you all. I'm Sylvia Calfat. I'm Senior Project Manager at the Committee on Sustainability Assessment. We're better known as COSA, and we're a non-profit dedicated to collecting data in agriculture for sustainability, because we really believe that data is essential for decision making, and we work with non-profits, we work with development agencies, we work with private companies and governments as well. So basically collecting data.
I'm Jeanine, Niyonzima-Aroian. I am originally from Burundi. I was born in Burundi. Spent many years in the US. I'm also a US citizen, and now living in Germany. We are one of the lucky companies that COSA has picked to start this pilot project on cost of production living income study that we're going to be presenting here, and I will tell you later why we choose to do this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gilbert Gatali. I am with African Fine Coffees Association. We're a member-based organization spanning across 11 countries in Africa. And I've been in the industry as a coffee exporter and now working in an association of coffee producers and exporters. And I'm happy to be a part of this and to balance the...
It's usually the other way around, okay? So don't complain.
But no, excited to be here and looking forward to having these conversations with you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, Lucia already did her presentation, but we have a little exercise for you. This will help you better understand what agile technology is. So please choose one of the QR codes and help us answer a survey. You can do it through a WhatsApp bot, or the middle QR code is an app, and the last QR code is WhatsApp but through voice, which I think is not going to work because it's a bit loud in here. But choose one with your phones, please, because we want to know more or less where you come from, a little bit of information from you. Once you're done answering the survey, let me know, because we can see it in a very cool dashboard. I mean, once you're done getting the QR code and getting inside the apps. Yeah, but let them just first take the picture first. Ah, yeah. Yeah, everyone was able to get the links that you chose. Yeah? So let's move to the next. So what we're trying to do here, we have a grant with the Gates Foundation, and as you know, they have many projects around the world, so they contacted us to help them test some other means of collecting data that doesn't require really sending enumerators to the field, that could make it more agile, that you don't have to spend so much money going to the field, right? That you have technology that can help you. But so here, you are all answering this survey, and you can see how automatically we can see where you're coming from. So we have someone from the US, or maybe most of you are from the US, and then my geography is a bit bad. What is that country, Gilbert? Vietnam. Sorry guys. Vietnam. And you, Chris, US, Hubert, where are you? I don't see Italy. It didn't work? You weren't fast enough? So we have Italy, but this is just to give you an idea. Now we use technology, and as everyone is inputting and submitting data, the dashboard can come and it fills in, and you get automatically this information. You don't have to wait, I don't know how many months to be able to see your data. No, but of course, not all data can be collected this way. This is not meant to substitute traditional methods of collecting data, but wherever possible, this is a way to help out, to help decrease costs, to help expedite the process. See, now we have people from Colombia, Brazil. Help me, Jeanine. What is that? This is very embarrassing. France, oh yeah. See, I'm not the only one. Okay, you got the point, right, guys? So let's go to the next. before I embarrass myself more. We'll move to the next one.
She said 1 second.
Woo! I thought we had someone from Russia. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, this grant that we have is really to assess these kinds of technology to collect data and really see if we can decrease the time of collecting data, decrease the cost of collecting data, but at the same time keeping the data validity, because it doesn't really, you can have agile methods to collect data, but if the data is not valid, it's worthless. So we're trying to make this responsibly, finding ways to have new means to collect data, but at the same time maintaining data validity. So the big differences here, I'm sure you're used to traditional methods of data collection, which is very slow. For instance, we just did a massive project in Rwanda and Mexico to collect data on cost of production and actual income of coffee farmers. In Rwanda, it was fairly easy because of the size of the country. It took us more or less a month and a half to collect 1,200 surveys, but in Mexico, because it's so big, we collected 800 surveys and it took us 3 to 4 months. So depending on the context, it takes a lot of time, it's very slow. It's very expensive because you have to send enumerators to the field, you have to pay their salaries, you have to pay their vehicles for the fuel of their vehicles, you have to pay for their meals, for their lodging, and so all of that amounts a lot, to the cost. It's low frequency because it's so costly that you're not going to be sending enumerators to the field all the time. You send it 1 year and maybe you're going to send Rwanda, for instance, they did this cost of production study. The first time it was in 2016 and again only in 2022. So it's so expensive that you don't always have the funding to be able to be continuously doing this work. And low reach because as it's expensive, as you're visiting farmers, you cannot visit the whole population of the country. So you always have to do a representative sampling of the population. And the last thing is that it's one way. You're always there extracting data from the farmer, but the farmer never gets the data back. The governments get the data back, the companies that we work with get the data back, the NGOs, but rarely the farmers get their own data. They might get the results of the study if someone goes and shares with them in aggregate form, but they never get back their own data that they were providing. So this is one of the issues we have. And with Agile, we're trying to change this. We're making things faster, trying to see if it's really lower cost. We can do it more frequently, and we can have a wider reach if it works. Anyone who has a smartphone is able to do it, which is an obstacle, in the rural areas. We're getting there, but you can have a wider reach, and you can give data back to the farmers. They can get back their own data, especially when they're working with an app, which is the case that we're doing in Burundi with Jeanine. So we did, one of the studies we're doing is in Sudan. We're working there with agro-pastoralist communities. And as you know, there is an awful conflict going on there. We're working with a partner, AFCA, and they have a program to give services to these communities, and they wanted to know if the services are being received because they don't know because of the war. They don't know if the services are reaching them or not, and if it's reaching, if the service was valuable or not. So we tried 2 modes of agile technology there. We tried one that's called IVR, which is interactive voice response, which is, sometimes don't you receive a phone call from your telephone operator, your cell phone operator, and there's those robots, and at least me, I hang up. I don't know what you guys do, but this was the case there. The farmers, the communities were receiving the calls, and when they saw there was a robot, they were shutting it down. So we had a very low response rate, only 7%. And then we changed the strategy. So let's do phone calls because no one can go to the country because of the conflict. But let's use human beings, no? So we use computer-assisted telephone interviews, and then you can see how the response rate increased to 60% because it's more likely that people, when it's a human being, they won't turn it off, right? They stay more in the call. So this was one of the learning we had. And this year, we're beginning to see some beautiful pictures from the work we're doing in Jeanine in Burundi. This is one of the farmers in the program. And in Burundi, we decided to go for an app. So we got the survey that I mentioned that we did in Rwanda and Mexico on cost of production and actual income. That was done in partnership with the International Coffee Organization. And then we had the very hard task to simplify that survey. The survey was 1.5 hour long with the farmers. So we had to get the survey that was very complicated and make it in a way that we only had the most important indicators, but we couldn't ask the same questions we were asking farmers for a numerator. We had to change it because farmers don't speak the same language. They don't know the same level of detail. So we had to make the question simple enough so that a farmer could understand, because they were going to use this app by themselves. No? And one of the main ideas and one of the main goals we have here is really also to avoid data intermediaries. When you have an app, the respondent is providing you the data directly. You don't have an intermediary in the middle. Because sometimes even when you train enumerators, and you can have the best enumerators possible, they always put some of their, especially if they're technical on the product. No? The farmer can say, no, I only use 200 grams of fertilizer. Say, no way, you should be using more, this cannot be possible. So it could be that they put their own opinions in there, and it could cause some bias in the data. And then when we do these big surveys in person, it's always recall data. You usually go to the field when the harvest is done, and then you ask the farmers for things that they have done a year ago. I don't know what I did yesterday. I barely know what I ate the day before yesterday, but now you're asking a farmer how much fertilizer they use, how much money they spend. It's impossible, really, no? So the idea of the app is that every day they go in the app and they answer simple questions about the costs that they have with coffee or the activities they're doing with coffee. So it's almost real-time data. And then the app gives the data back to the farmers. No? So as they started putting data every day, and I'm going to show you some pictures later, but there's a module in the app that gives you the summary of the data you're putting. So it goes adding the cost that you're putting, it goes adding the amount of time you're spending in the coffee farm with the different activities. So it gives them back immediately this information in the farmer's hand. And then, we don't know this yet, but we're not done with the project yet, but one of the things we're going to do is assess the difference in the data costs, and we're also going to be analyzing the quality of the data. We're going to finish collecting data through the app now in the end of July, which is the end of the harvest season, and then we're going to do an in-person survey with enumerators to compare the data. So the in-person survey will be the recall data with enumerators, and then we're also going to have the data from the app, and we're going to compare to see how the data compares, if there's a big difference or not, and try to figure out which one is right and which one is wrong. And we're doing this work in Burundi, was the first one. Jeanine was the brave one to help us with this. And now we're also testing it in Colombia and in India. The 3 first countries there is for coffee. And we're also testing it with Ricotta in Ivory Coast for cocoa. So the app is really adaptable to the client and the client needs. So this is a small overview of the project in Burundi. We started with 400 farmers, but unfortunately we had 2 that passed away. We have 1 that gave up on the work. Yeah, so we had some people who left. But it's 90 women and 305 men. The majority of the population is adults, meaning they are 25 to 50, and also a big number of older, which was also a challenge because in Burundi access to smartphones is not common. So we had to give them smartphones, we had to teach them how to use the phones, and we had to teach them how to understand the app, the questions there were. So it was a big challenge, especially when considered the older populations and also the level of education, 54% in primary education and only a bit more than primary. And the work began in September, where we were training the farmers, and it's meant to end in July at the end of the harvest. And we provided them with smartphones and solar power grids, because another challenge, they didn't have the phones and they didn't have power in their households to charge the phones. So how can we do a project with an app and a phone? If they don't have a phone, then they don't have power. So there was all obstacles that we were overcoming. And the last one was the satellite, the network access. We really thought in the beginning, we met with a network provider who assured us we're gonna have a connectivity in the field. So we bought data plans from them, and then when we were in the field, it didn't work at all. So we had to think out of the box, and then we had to hire Starlink, install Starlink in the coffee washing station, so at least once a week the farmers could go and synchronize the data. But this is just to show you that we're working in an environment that's very adverse for this kind of technology. But we wanted to test it there because if it works in Burundi, we believe it's going to work anywhere. And we strongly believe that we shouldn't leave farmers or countries behind just because you have obstacles to overcome. So we had the resources and we overcame those obstacles, and it's after 5 or 6 months it started working well. So, wait, how can I go? I just wanted to show you before. I don't know what's going on here, it's not showing. But this is a feel of the app that you can see. So this is the different modules that we have. We have the household module, the farm module, the coffee activities module, equipment and inputs, income, and the summary that I mentioned. It's where they have all the information they input in the app, a summary of all of that. And also they have the information on their hands. The household and the farm modules are the most complicated ones because it digs deep in the realities of the households and the farms, so we complete those modules during the farmer training. And then the 3 modules there, the coffee, the equipment and inputs, and the income are the 3 modules that every day, at the end of the day, they go in, spend 10 minutes and fill them in. And the household module is very important because we ask for all the members in the household. So now we're going to be able to understand the role of women and young in the farm, because we never know what kind of activities they're doing. So when they select the activity of the day, they need to say who in the household is performing that activity. So you're gonna see if it's the wife, it's the husband, if it's the kid. And then you're not gonna know how much time they're spending. What is the activity each of these people are doing? So it's gonna give us a lot of details. Whereas in a survey, a normal survey, when we go to the field, we always ask about the household head and kind of information about the other members of the household, but never in detail. And this is gonna give us a very deep level of detail. So this is like the model of activity. They go in every day, they can scroll down and choose the activity they're going to perform. And this is the summary that I mentioned. We don't have data here, but see that they have like the summary of the amount of number of members to the activity, amount of hours, and we didn't have any cost in this picture, but it would amount to the cost. So just the last slide before I pass on to Jeanine and before we see a little movie about the project. After we overcame all of those challenges that I mentioned, since March 3rd, we've been analyzing the data, and we've seen that 66% of the farmers have submitted 80% of the weeks, which for us was a big surprise. We thought the adoption was going to be so low, and when we saw this, we were so happy. We couldn't believe our eyes that this was happening. And they are meant to be answering every day, but the average has been 4 days a week, which is fine. Like, we're happy with it, considering the local environment. And then, then you see the other levels that submitted less days and less amount of times. So now we have a short video just for you to get a feel of the work. And hear from the farmers. We tried bringing the farmers here, but the visa didn't get ready on time because we wanted you to hear directly from them. But I think that through this small movie you can get an idea.
Agile data, what is it? Who is it for? How is it used? Who actually uses it? And does it help the person it should, the farmer?
We decided to develop an app that would maintain the COSA rigor in data collection. So our first challenge was to simplify the survey in a way that would maintain the validity of the data. Our next step was to work with the developer to simplify the content in a way that it could be understandable by the farmers, who in many cases don't know how to use this kind of technology to input data. We also had to think about if the farmers had access to smartphones, if they had power in their households, and if in the country there was network connectivity so they could be sending this data on a daily basis.
Well, during COSA, as we discussed the introduction and development of an agile data app specifically for farmers. Look, there's no point in talking about any type of app without hearing from the end users themselves to hear their point of view. Of course, I'm talking about farmers and their communities.
Inyigisho bahejeje kuduha ni inyigisho nziza zadushimishije kandi twabonye ko ari inyigisho zoroshe. Gukoresha ubwo buhinga bizotugirira akamaro kuko umurimyi azotegerezwa kubona ubuhombe yagize canke inyungu yagize ku bikorwa azoba yakoreye mu gipimo ciwe. Nk'intambamyi twabonyemwo ni izijanye n'ukuntu ibirere bitari bimeze neza, naho ibindi vyose twabonye bimeze neza.
Ibisha nabonye bizodufasha kumenya uko tuzotegura igiterwa cacu c'ikawa, kandi tumenye ko twahora dukorera mu buhombe, ubu tugiye kumenya ko tugiye gukorera tumenya ko twunguka. Oya, nta ntambamyi zihari. Ico tubera intambamyi nuko ubumenyi bwoba buke, ubwo ubumenyi bubaye bwinshi gishobora kugenda neza.
Yego biroroshe kuko turiko turavyitegereza, kubera nibi ntavyo twari tuzi, ariko twitegereje ukungene muriko murabiduha turumva mu mitima yuko birimwo. Tuzofata umwanya wo gukomeza tuvyiga kuko ntiwokwiga rimwe ngo utahura.
Ivyo bintu bizodufasha, ubwa mbere twaguma dukora tutazize ukuntu twunguka canke duhomba. Duhomba tutunguka ntacyo twamenya, ariko kugeza uno musi mwaduha inyigisho y'ukuntu tuzabigenza, duharura ivyo twakoresheje, twongera turaba n'imyimbu twakuyemwo mu giterwa c'ikawa.
Farmers and their communities love the idea of Agile Data App. It's a work in progress, of course, but the initial feedback is incredibly positive, and we'll be following this closely over the next year to see if farmers' expectations are being met, despite some of the challenges that even they have highlighted.
The surprising thing here, these interviews that you just heard was right after the training. And it was amazing for us when we heard, because we couldn't understand anything they were speaking Kirundi. And when we got the translations, the amount of things they learned just through the training that the app we're going to do. So it was very, very nice point there. Jeanine, you can continue.
That's fine. So, as I say, I'm a more of an interactive person. I just want to hear questions because I think that's the best way that I can. Please, what's your name? If you can tell us what's your name and then give us your question.
Thank you. I'm Melanie from Germany, and my question is, when is the first time you will have comparable data from the last year season and the next one?
So we finished collecting data through the app when the harvest ends now, which is mid-July, right? Because the harvest began a bit late this year. And then right after, we're going to go to the field with the enumerators. And they're going to use the very complicated survey we used in Rwanda, and not the simplified version of the survey, which we were using for the app, no, for the farmers. And we're using the same organization who did the survey for us in Rwanda because they know it really well. So we really wanted to be someone who really got a good grasp of the tools, no? And could understand the app and how the app relates to the original tool. So, and that we're gonna probably, I have a call with the research organization next week, and we're probably gonna begin that in August when the harvest is done, because we need to wait for the harvest to finish, and hopefully before the end of the year we're gonna have the study published. That's our plan.
With the cocoa, how is it there? Is it just also this year you will have the first results?
Cocoa, it's gonna be next year. We just finished training the farmers there, the farmer leaders. There we took a different approach. We trained farmer leaders to train the farmers themselves. We just finished training them in early May, the first week of May. The app was ready today because every training we do, we get feedback from the leaders, so we can adapt the app to their current realities, and so they feel comfortable with the app. No? So today it's ready. On Monday we're gonna install it on the phones. We're working with 200 farmers there. And then once that is done, they're gonna train the farmers, and then data collection is gonna begin. And it goes until the end of harvest season, that's around January. And then again, we're gonna do the in-person survey. So I guess by mid next year, we're gonna have the cocoa results.
Any other question?
Hi, so is this a long-term tool development, or this is just for the research?
For us, we hope this is a long-term tool. So as you heard me say earlier, The reason why we wanted to do this, first of all, for us was to be able to understand what is the cost of production for the farmers, make sure that they are earning enough income that can make them sustainable that from coffee. But we're also doing other things that are complementary to coffee above and beyond this. But what really excited me the most for me as the owner of Jeanine Coffee was the ability to actually to provide this data back to the farmers. The democracy that we are creating around this information, not only, like Sylvia said, it's now information that's going to take us a year to collect, and then the farmers will never see the information, but it's information we are collecting on a daily basis, or weekly basis, or monthly basis, that's constantly living with the farmers, and the farmers can actually get back that information and adjust whatever they are doing in real time. If it is, putting more fertilizer on the farm, if maybe means like maybe pruning, or maybe getting information about the weather. If they are drying cherries and need to know that they need to cover the cherries. There's so much potential that I see in this data, because all of a sudden we are arming the farmers with information that they can utilize for their own good. They can utilize to make the process, the production better, and to also we can even use that platform maybe to go back and pay the second payment, which is some of the stuff that we do in our work. Instead of just showing up with bags and a backpack of money and cash, we have to give the farmers. Maybe this is a device that they can utilize to receive the money through the bank. There's so many things that this data and the platform can actually be able to serve the farmers, that for me got me so excited about wanting to do this. But I'm not going to actually be the only one to talk, because I want to give the opportunity as well to Mr. Gilbert, who is the Executive Director of AFCA, which is the African Fine Coffee Association, to also give us some word of what he thinks about the potential, not just above and beyond just one single tiny country, Burundi, but how else can we leverage this data and also this app to do other work in Africa. Gilbert.
Thanks, Jeanine. I was actually going to feed off of your question. For us as AFCA, our interest for this not to be a one-time, but the longer term for it is more also around scale. One of the ethos behind AFCA is how do we support our members, who are primarily coffee producers and exporters, to be empowered to be able to utilize the information and data that they have, so that they can use that to make decisions that allow their businesses to grow. And Jeanine refers to it as a small, tiny, beautiful country that has fantastic coffees, Burundi. How then do we scale that to the other 10 countries that we operate in? 9, South Africa doesn't produce coffee, but the other 9 countries that we work with. But really, that's just looking at us as a country, but how does this information, how does this tool, the process in understanding, how do we take that, learn from it, and grow it so that it becomes something that allows, primarily for us, obviously, the African coffee producer, exporter, to start owning data and then using that data to make decisions for them to grow their business, or make a decision not to grow their business, but at the very least have a way to be able to make that decision that isn't imposed on them by an external factor. So our interest is, how do we scale, and how does that not become a one-time thing, but rather a part of what people are doing.
And just to complement in the technical part of the app, we're first piloting to see if it works, right? We don't want to have a tool and say it's amazing when then we get the data and it doesn't make sense or it's not good. So first, I think this is the first real step for us. It is now for coffee and cocoa, but it can be adapted to any crop. And one more step that we're taking, now they can get the summary, so they know the amount of hours each member of the household spent in what, they know how much money they spent, they know how much money they're getting as a household, not only from coffee, but all the economic activities of the household. They know all of that, but what we don't have yet on the app is insights. So our next step, once we finish this first pilot phase, is to use AI also to give insights back, and machine learning. So as we have, for instance, in Burundi, we have almost 400 farmers. So the idea is really that the app itself already is analyzing all the information all the farmers are inputting, and then if you see farmer, Jeanine, has very low yield and she's using a lot of fertilizers, but then her neighbor uses less fertilizers and has the same yield. So give her this kind of insights. Hey, you're using too much fertilizer, it's not giving you more yield. So bring it down and maybe you can bring down your cost so that it's automatic. It doesn't need like an analyst behind it to learn this and then give it back to the farmer, that the phone and the app gives it. So this is our next step. And then the third step is extension. Okay, now you have your insights. What do I do about it? So then you receive automatically an insight, an extension advice on what to do. And if you keep using this app throughout the years, then you can compare to the previous years and see if you're improving. Then we can see if they're adopting the recommendations, and if not, why not. Another thing we want to do is add weather, so that they were able to see, oh no, I'm going to fertilize next week, but it's going to rain or not. So then advice comes, better not fertilize next week, because it's going to rain, it's going to run off, wait a little bit more. Like these kinds of insights, that's where we're heading. And based on all of that, we'll see if this app will be open source, if it's going to be, I don't know, what we're doing right now, customizing for each user. We need to find a way to make the app cheaper, because every time you customize, it's a lot of money because you change the structure. So, sorry? We have a partner in India called GDI. And then because it was initially built just to make these tests, and we had to do it fast, like it's now. We had a month or 2 months to produce this app because of the harvest season. When Jeanine accepted, yeah, I think we had 2 months, so you have to do it fast. We didn't do it in a way that it would be easy to update the content. And we didn't even know we wanted to have like an app that adapts to different scenarios. We thought we were gonna have one app, but now we see no, that we need to be able to adapt the content, and we're figuring out ways to bring the cost down so it makes sense, no? Because we want it to be much cheaper than sending an enumerator to the field.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats on this work so far. It's very cool. The data democratization aspect is like great. It seems like from a farmer perspective, it's more a budgeting tool for them, and the fact that this data is shared with you all is like seems like secondary. It's more like finally I have a budgeting tool. Seems very. Maybe that's what led to higher response rates than you originally expected. My question is about once you have the data and you see what the cost of production actually is, and you see, I guess I'm curious, like your plans for responding to what the data is. If the cost of production is higher than you anticipated, if you're further away from a living income than you want to see, what do you anticipate your steps will be? I'm targeting that at you, but that's also, of course, a wider question for the industry.
Right, it is actually. I am very curious actually to see what's going to be the result of this study. It kind of like goes to the way Gilbert said. Right now we start with just like a small run. We have like 400 farmers in the study. But ideally is to be able to extend to our 20,000 farmers, in our network, for example, and above, and hopefully throughout the whole country. This is going to provide us a platform to be able to communicate with the roasters. Then again, this was actually driven by our clients who wanted to see. So if our clients are able to actually see that the cost of, let's say, the cost of production is, out of wax, and then what else can we do? What else can we come back and do? What can we intervene? This actually gives us an opportunity to just be able to intervene in so many different places that maybe we might not be able to see when there is like no clarity because we don't have that information. Now we know very, very well that maybe instead of just coming back and giving money as a second payment to the farmers, maybe we need to come and educate them in this very specific area when they can be able to reduce that cost of production. And sometimes it doesn't take much. It's just actually knowing what you need to be pinpoint to trying to solve the issue. So it's an exciting opportunity to, as I said, not only just to us but also to them, to to be able to kind of see this is something that maybe I'm doing wrong, my neighbor is doing it better, now I can learn from my neighbor, and then maybe I don't even need to actually just bring an outsider, or maybe don't even have to bring additional funding to be able to solve the problem. It might be like maybe just simple networking within the farmers. So many things can be done. I don't know where they are because I don't know what the problem is, but once I know the problem and what is the area of intervention, then we can be able to invite more the consumer, the roasters, even other people in the whole supply chain to be able to get involved and help us to make a difference.
Who's giving you the money to pay the procurement in India and all the costs the costs that occur, and what is the plan for the future to how to raise more funds?
Yeah, currently it's the Gates Foundation. So the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which now is only Gates Foundation. They have now each their own foundations. And this grant that we have with them, it goes up to the end of next year. So all this, the first phase is through that grant. But now we're also already starting to build the new phase grant, the proposal, so we can add the AI and the machine learning to give the insights to the farmers. So we hope Bill continues funding us, but with that, we're gonna go also after other grantees for now, just to have a solid tool. And once that's ready, then of course grants is not sustainable in the long run. We need to see if we're gonna make it open source or if we're gonna have a pricing model, maybe give it for free so we can have the data back to us, anonymized of course, so we can continue learning. Like the more people using the app, the more data we're gonna have. And it could be for learning for everyone, public learning. COSA, that's our objective, no? It's not learning for us, it's learning for the community. And if farmers allow us, if they have this app for free and they allow us to make use of the data, anonymized of course, and we can give insights to the sector, the different sectors about what's going on, that's the ultimate dream, I guess.
I think to answer your question also, this is an opportunity to invite the coffee community. So we see this also as a way not only to communicate what's going on, what the reality on the ground are, but also to be able to invite people to participate to make the difference. If they want to see the cost of production to go down, and if they want to see the income of the farmers to go up, it is an opportunity then for them to also see, hey, this is the place we need to be putting money. So it's not only our problem, but it's everybody's problem. So anyone who's drinking coffee, we really want to see the farmer who's growing that coffee to have a good standard of living. This is an opportunity to then figure out together how we can be able to address the issue. So that is my hope, that it's not only just about discovering, it's not only relying on Bill Gates. It's wonderful that he's been able to provide us this opportunity, and hopefully he can continuously do that. But it's also inviting the community that's involved. And coffee is drunk all around the world by so many people, and it's an opportunity for them to learn about what's going on and also to get involved.
Any more questions? Because we have one more video to show you. The first video you saw was in the beginning, right after the training. And now we have another video that's midterm.
Bwa mbere twakora ikawa tugashora hama tugahembwa mugabo ntitumenye uko twunguka canke twahombye. Mugabo ari umugambi rero nawushimiye udutanga amakuru iyo twakoresheje ure tugere ku mwanya wo gushora ikawa kugira ngo turabe yuko twunguka canke twahombye. Ubwa mbere nabona yuko mengana ibintu bigoye gose tutadubishobora. Ariko rero ubunyi ku munsi iyo tugiye gukora igikotewa cy'ikawa twatanga raporo. Tushoye twatangiye gushora unatanga raporo y'ibyo twashoye ko bingana. Yego ure turindiriye yuko tuzokontora twaraba ivyo twakoresheje n'ibyo twungutse twaraba ubusumbasumbane. Ubuhinga ari bwiza cyane. Kubera impamvu ari bwiza cyane, ubwa mbere twakora tutazi iyo dukora ivyari ivyo. Ubwo ubunyi twamaze kubona ibintu ukuntu bimeze, ubunyi turabona yuko tuzohomba tuzunguka tuzobimenya. Kuko ubwa mbere na mbere ntitwakontora ngo tumenye ibintu nk'ibi.
Nkironka telefone twebwe nta matara twe dufise mu nzu, nta telefone ni twe dufise mu nzu. Mugabo ubu turayitunze, n'abana baza kuba barangara bararaba bakabarecaye muri saro. bicaye muri salo nkaca ndabacanira itara hanyuma hageze yaho gukurikirana igitega cy'ikawa kuko ubwa mbere twarakora ntitwaronka ahantu dutangira raporo ngo tumenye ibyo turiko turakora ibyo ari byo mugabo ubuya nyimba tugiye tukabagara tubagaye je n'umugabo wanje n'abakozi batatu nca negera umuntu akamfasha kubera ntagire amahirwe yo kuja kw'ishuri akantangira raporo hanyuma nkazamenya nanje uburyo turiko turakoresha yego byarahindutse gose none ubwa mbere urumva je mu kwinjira mu nzu namurikisha ivyatsi mugabo ubuya ninjira mu nzu hari amatara kandi abana banje nabo bakaba baranse ikintu bateramira ko baba telefone n'umuntu nyene wiwacu atanyegereye afise telefone nini nkamuramutsa nyene tukaganira ayo matara nyene baduhaye hano kwizina nyene baduhana n'izi telefone afashe kwiyi telefone tuze turonka aho dushariza kugira turonka uburyo bwo gutanga raporo tutiriwe turaja kure ngo bazidutware cyo nukuri numva nezerewe pe numva ko cyumvira cyiwanje numva bokongereza inyigisho kugira nanje ndabitahure nyene neza nze nitangira nyene raporo nyene neza
jewe ntogwa muri umugambi jewe nabitowe mu mbere menga ni nk'umugenzo sinari yuko bizongirira akamaro kugira ngo ndonke telefone nanjye nze ndanyereza nk'abandi ndabishimiwe cyane kandi jewe nitoza mu umugambi naje ngahanyene kwizina nje guhembwa ntuze udufaranga tukabare nashoye burya mbona nyene abariko barandika nanjye ndiyandikisha jewe cyane nkitangira gutanga amakuru nabona nyene ntanga amakuru neza hariho ntuzenya umukuru wacu w'umugwi nyene twari dufise twaramwitura cyane akabituberamwo ibyo tutazi akabidukorera akatwereka ingene tubigenza tugakorera ikawa tugatanga raporo tukabagara tugasasira tugatanga raporo tugahuza tukabona menga birahuje burya rero niho rero nagize gutya rero nk'ubu numva ngo abandi ngo bagomba ngo baronke ngo akavu mugabo je mu rutonde rw'abaronka umwavu sinashoboye kubamo nibaza nk'ikintu cerekeye nk'amamega jewe mfatiye kuntuzenya kuva ko kituzana bino bikoresho byo guhuriza ngaha ibintu by'amamega nahora ndayagura ubwa mbere mugabo sinasubire kugura amamega naciye nitwararika ibi byahanye nati nkeka raporo igenda neza mugabo nibaza yuko raporo itashika neza nk'uko bisabwa eco kogwa nasaba mwongere mutwongere ubwenge nyene muduha utunyigisho dushishikare turonka utunyigisho kugira natwe ngo ubumenyi natwe twiyongere natwe turabe ukuntu byogenda turabaho twokosora icyo tuma natwe tutabaye mwabo bandi
mbone kuvuga je ndevye mu ntango ko niyumva nabona naje ubwanje ntazobishobora ubwo ngerageje kureba ukuntu bagiye batugwiriza inyigisho bakatwigisha bakadutahuza ubu mbona neza bimeze neza biratahuritse icyo twobandanya dusaba ni babandanye batwigisha ubundi bumenyi kuri iyi application ya COSA kugira tubandanye tumenya ibindi murakoze mbo akamaro ni karekare tudafashe nk'iminsi nk'itandatu kugira tubidondore ntitwobimara akamaro je novuga kuri jewe ni karekare cyane kuvuga tugerageje kureba nk'ubu twahora dukora ibikorwa by'ikawa tukabura ukuntu tubisigura ariko ubu turaronka aho dutanga raporo tukavuga ibyo twakoze tukavuga n'uburyo byadutwaye nk'ubu rero akamaro ka mbere tumaze kubona baraduhaye telefone n'ubu bahajije kutwemera ko bazoduha bagombe baduha kavu ko gufumbira ibyo biterwa by'ikawa kugira bibandanye bimera neza jewe si umunezero gusa iyo biba bikunda no kubyina no ubyina kuko numva umunezero cyane kuba nararonkejwe telefone nk'umurimyi w'ikawa nkaba ngiye no guhabwa kavu ko gufumbira ibyo biterwa by'ikawa ubu ngiye kuva hasi nkorera igiterwa c'ikawa nivuye inyuma
The fertilizer he was mentioning was an incentive. So for the higher performers, we gave them 2 bags of fertilizers to see if that would also make the other people send the data. Gilbert and Jeanine, please, your words, final words.
Yeah, I think maybe something to add on to this is when you see one of the participants talked about having a phone and access to a phone, it's important to just not think of it as the transparency that comes out of the ability to be able to collect data and own data. But it's also a great opportunity to open up or demystify some things about smartphones and what people can actually start doing beyond coffee when they have access to internet and a phone. Some of you probably know about mobile money payments. For a very long time in the coffee industry, in my days I used to drive in bags of money to go make payments, and now once you unlock the fear of using a smartphone, it also just allows that farmer to be able to actually receive payments using a phone, which starts to make major changes in how things operate. So these are the ripple effect of what such a project would do in a farmer's life holistically. So I think that's something that I wanted to add. And second, based on the conversation we were having earlier about then what, roasters are asking for this information. I think once this information starts to get collected, it starts to switch. It supports farmers on one end to be able to get data and insights when we get to the insights part. But it also supports the roasters when they're talking to their customers to say, this is why we are requesting for this price. So it starts to bring in that transparency in a way that helps everybody in the chain to have a similar conversations that is based on data and not based on, which is also important, emotions that Gilbert has with farmers that he works with, or Jeanine, or anybody. But we're backing it now with data that now allows you, the exporter, you, the farmer, to take full ownership of what your reality is and sharing it with whoever that end consumer is.
Also about if there is some key information, also that you can provide to farmers. So, for example, price information can be one. Another one can be like very obvious information, for example, the solar on the moon cycle, and some recommendation around like when to fertilize, when is the best moment. That are something that it's something quite obvious, but maybe the people in the field doesn't have access as it is. So just if you have thinking about it.
Thank you. I think we did address that earlier, but yes, the whole purpose around this, it's not only about collecting information about really what is the cost of production. Yes, this is the starting of the discussion, the conversation, and also to make sure that the farmers are receiving enough income to live on. And if not, what can we do? But it's also provide us the platform. They also provide the farmer that platform to be able to collect a lot of information that's going to have them to thrive. And that is, like you said, the weather condition that's going to help them do something different than what they were doing before. The information that they can gather among themselves, the neighbors, what are the neighbors doing that are maybe better than what they are doing, that they can also apply, even not only in the country, even outside of the country. You heard about how we're looking to actually be able to scale this, not only in one country, like Burundi, but also to have access to all the farmers in Burundi, but also in other countries where AFCA is, for example, working in. So this is why we keep inviting Gilbert in the conversation to make sure that he's aware of what's going on and what the studies are going on. And also all of you here to actually know that this work is undergoing and it costs money. We took a risk. It cost us a lot of money as a company, as a small company like JNP Coffee, but we are proud of what we can actually be able to pilot as an important project that is very important for our coffee community in general. So you heard about the farmers saying that now I have a phone, I can call my friends. Now I have this phone and actually I feel comfortable about using this phone. Now we can use this phone as a way to receive maybe payments. So many things can actually be, it can be done. Not only through the app, but also the ability to actually provide the farmers with a mobile phone that otherwise they're not able to get. Some of them are able to actually now have power in their own home because we need to provide them with solar panels so they can be able to power the phones, so they can be able to access the phone, because without power you cannot use the phone. Without the wireless communication, which is the Starlink, we're able to provide them, they cannot be able to receive other outside information. So it is a very powerful tool. I get very excited about it. apologies about it because I think it really has a great potential. But thanks for COSA to invite us to be part of this project, and thanks for Gilbert from AFCA to be able to continue to be part of this conversation. And thank you to all of you to be able to share this discussion, and hopefully we can continue.
Do you want to say something else? Go ahead.
No, just thank you. Thank you very much for being a part of this, and to all of you for being with us.
Thank you very much. I don't know if it's possible to click just for them to see what I meant before. That the community, all the projects if you want to be part of the community, if you want to take a picture, write Emily, and you'll be invited for the quarterly webinars we have, where we're going to discuss the results of our studies, but we're also bringing people who are working with Agile outside COSA to present what they're doing, so you can get more information. We're also going to have an in-person event of the community in Zimbabwe in November, so please contact her if you want to be part of this. And the next one, the link of the website. This is where we keep all the results of all the studies we're doing. So when you go in this link, you're going to see the studies that have been completed. And then when Burundi is done, it's going to be posted there as well, and the other countries as well. This is the hub. I don't know, but you can get the link there and check it out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to, thank you, all of you, for being here.